So I think there's been solid news lately when it comes to Zebec, even though nothing I say is financial advice. Did you know that Zebec recently announced how they're powering the brand new payroll app, which is by Dash, which I think is really cool and really interesting. Now, again, I'm not telling anyone to do anything, even though the price of ZBCN isn't doing the best, and I'll talk about that very soon. But still, we already know about what Zebec did in the past when it comes to Dash in regard to the Zebec cards. We already know that, but that was quite a while back ago. But now we're kind of beginning to see a resurgence, a reemergence, I would say, when it comes to Zebec doing things again when it comes to Dash. I just think it's pretty cool overall. Is it the best news of all time? No, but I think it's solid nonetheless. Like, I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's the best of all time either. That's just my perspective. Now, granted, though, people like to tell me, well, who cares about all this? Do you know that ZBCN is down almost 10% in the past 24 hours? Yeah, I do know that. But what can I do about it? People like to sometimes tell me, when is it going to happen? When is this going to happen? Or whatever. I can't control that. If I pulled up a price chart, I drew some random triangles, I tried to draw a falling wedge pattern. Do you think the market's going to care about what I have to do? No, it's not going to care at all. The market does not care about what Lee the Captain does. This is the way I take a look at it. And Lee the Captain, of course, is me. But I'm saying it does not care about what I have to do. So if I know that, what am I going to do at a time like this? I'm just going to choose to be a fan of the projects that I'm a fan of and just take a look at the fundamentals, because if a project is still surviving, if it's still doing its thing, if it's still kind of making it through, especially at a time like right now, that's sometimes all I care about, because a lot of projects out there, they're ceasing operations, they're closing up shop basically. But I just don't see it here. This is just my perspective. Now, not to mention as well, when I take a look at a project as of right now, generally speaking, I could take a look at this project, another project, or whatever. They're generally speaking having a pullback. But if that's the common denominator, of course, I'm going to be focusing on the ones that, despite having a pullback, are still updating, still having new partnerships, still improving, and still innovating. That's what I want to focus on, because if random memes, random projects I've never heard of are having a pullback, yet Zebec is also having a pullback, what am I going to be focusing on? Of course, I'm going to be focusing on the project that I'm a fan of. In this case, it's Zebec, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything. Now, personally for me as well, kind of my perception when it comes to this is that I just don't see a project like this sometimes going out of style. What do I mean by that? Let's take a look at Ripple. Let's take a look at Stellar. What are they focused on? They're focused on global trade and finance, primarily speaking. Are they going to go out of style? No, I don't think so, actually. So isn't it only natural that something like Zebec may not go out of style as well? Maybe, because Zebec recently had a partnership with Stellar, so we do know that Stellar acknowledges Zebec. Not to mention, I think Zebec's actually top 5 in terms of the global trade and finance space within this space in terms of popularity. So is a top 5 project within a quote-unquote evergreen niche randomly going to get forgotten about? Or go out of style, I should say. I highly doubt that in a hypothetical perspective, but we'll wait and see. Had Zebec never been acknowledged by Stellar, had it been like, let's say, way smaller than what it is as of right now, then maybe it's a different case. There's different arguments there that maybe this project could go out of style, but the way it is as of right now, ranked 119th in the world in terms of market cap within this space. Recently, of course, we saw Zebec reaching 100,000 holders. With that following, with that size, with that amount of notoriety, with those partnerships, I highly don't see a scenario where it could just randomly become out of style if the market were to pick up again, but this is just in a pure hypothetical, only time will tell. Because again, I can't control the market, but one thing I do know though is that global trade and finance is a pretty popular niche historically speaking, and Zebec is not only just focused on that, but it's even top 5 in terms of popularity within that niche. Besides that point though, people like to tell me, well, why would Zebec having a partnership not do anything when it comes to the charts? Well, it's because the market's not doing the best. Zebec cannot have, in my opinion, just an independent rally of its own, especially the size that it's in as of right now. It's just pretty difficult for it to just randomly go on an independent rally of its own if the market sentiment overall doesn't really change in a massive way. It'd be different if Zebec was a microcap, because imagine, let's say a microcap, let's say has a market cap of around 5,000. Even like if the market cap became 50,000, that's already a 10 times movement, right? But if I take a look at Zebec, if we just even added, let's say, 10 million to the market cap of ZBCN, what would it really do? It's not even 10% of the current market cap of ZBCN currently. It's not going to be a needle mover, right? It's not going to move the needle that much in the grand scheme of things. So when it comes to Zebec, it needs a lot more volume and kind of movement to really showcase something significant when compared to a microcap. But the thing is, a microcap, sometimes we don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, in this case, we also don't really know, in my opinion, but at the same time, I just feel a little bit more, I guess, worried when it comes to some microcaps out there because for one that makes it, for a couple that make it, there's a bunch that don't. Granted, Zebec may just not do anything if the market picks up again, who knows? But at the same time, at least we've seen what it did historically, not to mention the partnerships that it has, how it's currently ranked 119th in the world in terms of market cap, has around 100,000 holders. So at least I could see those metrics, right? With a microcap, there's really nothing I could take a look back at because usually they're very new projects. We just don't really know. But I don't really want to believe in such a massive project either because if they recover, okay, cool, 40%. All right. That's just sometimes the way I take a look at it. It's a bit mid. That's my perspective. But if I take a look at something like Zebec, because it's not too massive, but it's not too small either, if it just has a hypothetical recovery, again, we're around 2 times lower than where it was just last year in terms of market cap at a certain point. So, yeah, at least it's not like a hypothetical 40% movement, which is a little bit boring, to be honest, personally for me. But I'm saying, besides that point, though, if I take a look at something like ZBCN, people like to tell me, well, who cares about a project like this? Well, again, around 100,000 people apparently do care because we just recently saw around 100,000 holders. Now, let's not forget, Zebec has pretty impressive backers to the point that it's not even like random entities that I've never heard of. It's actually pretty famous ones at that. Like, for instance, Circle, the creator of USDC, Coinbase Ventures, OKX Ventures, Solana Ventures. Isn't that really massive? I mean, that's my perspective. Not to mention, if I take a look at Zebec overall, it does have an aspect of Solana, but as of right now, Solana isn't doing the best. But what happens if that narrative when it comes to Solana returns again? But here's the thing. When Solana became a pretty big narrative not that long ago, what really kind of became popular within Solana? It was the memes. But we haven't really seen a time when projects that are really focused on kind of that utility and stuff like that to really have a time to shine when it comes to the ones that have an aspect of Solana. So what happens if the market hypothetically recovers and let's say the script is flipped, right? We flip the script and let's say instead of memes becoming that narrative when it comes to Solana, instead of that, it changes to utility-driven projects. Guess who's waiting right there? Zebec. Not only Zebec, though, of course, there's other projects too, like Render, for instance. We take a look at also in the case of Pyth, right? It's spelled Python, but without on, so without on, Python minus on becomes Pyth. Pyth is a project, in my opinion, that kind of reminds me of a miniature version of Chainlink. In case anyone has heard of Chainlink, it's a very massive project. Basically, Pyth is kind of like Chainlink, in my opinion, but just way smaller. It just gives me that vibe. It's kind of like how Zebec reminds me of Ripple and Stellar, but just with a way smaller size and popularity. That's just the way to take a look at it. But even besides that, what happens at Pyth, something like Zebec, something like Render really has their time to shine. Maybe, who knows? We'll wait and see. I mean, historically, arguably, they kind of did have a time to shine a little bit, but that wasn't an altcoin season, in my opinion, so we'll wait and see what happens moving forward. But I'm saying still, if let's say when the market recovers, memes are kind of ignored when it comes to Solana, and let's say maybe they care more so about the utility-driven projects that have an aspect of Solana, again, Zebec's waiting right there, but we'll wait and see what happens, even though nothing I say is financial advice. Personally, I'm still staying patient, but I just thought that recent news, or that recent update, I would say, when it comes to Zebec was pretty solid. Again, seeing how Zebec is now powering the new payroll app by Dash. I think it's pretty cool, but even besides that point, though, I just want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's Wendy the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.